Top headlines of the morning.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Good morning, Sandy.
Morning.
Good morning, Blake and Aaron. How are you guys doing?
We are great.
Surviving.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Poor Aaron. I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, man. You know what? This is the thing. When you have kids, there's two things that will always happen. You'll get irritated all the time by them not listening.
And you'll get fat.
And you'll be sick all the time.
Oh.
And you'll get fat.
You have less time for
Yeah.
you have less me
You
time.
may get fat too, but
Then
that's
you
the point.
I'm talking about me.
Yeah. It was lockdown.
What's up, Sandy? What do you got for us this morning?
So some breaking news this morning on the court front, CMR exclusive. Remember the Mendozas in West Bay over that land dispute?
Yes.
Yes.
Wilson Mendoza was sentenced to 7 days in jail yesterday for breaching a court order.
What was that?
Remember you
Court
put the
order.
cinder blocks
Breaching a
there or
court
something?
order. Yeah.
Oh, was it the cinder blocks that happened like a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
So he got an injunction in February to say you need to stop obstructing, the access way for these people. And obstructing means anything, whether it's blocks, a fence, a wall, whatever. And it was very, very clear that he couldn't have anybody else do it on his behalf. And he still did it.
Wow.
Since February and wouldn't move it. And,
He called the court's bluff.
he sure did. And the court said, you're going to jail.
Wow.
And so does that happen like immediately, or do you have some time to report to jail to serve 7 days? How does that work?
Yeah, because it is a civil matter in the sense that it was a civil injunction. They picked him up last night at his house, so he was able to leave. Because a lot of people were wondering about that. They're like, did they haul him off in handcuffs? Like they wanted to see that video, but we didn't have that video because it didn't happen. So yeah, he was permitted to leave whilst they sorted out all the paperwork, and then they picked him up last night.
Oh wow! So he's like in jail now.
Yeah, he should be.
Wow.
Mind you, with your 60% discount, he's going to only serve a couple days, right? But I think it still sends a fairly clear message, which we're going to delve into on the show this morning. But yeah.
Hey, jail's not fun.
No, but it also just sounds like can't people just get along?
Yeah.
It's
Just
crazy.
move then.
Well, I don't.
So-
I think it's more than that, but whatever.
Yeah, well,
Someone needs to
26-year-old.
intervene.
You can't.
Someone needs to properly intervene and say, "This is what it is. Either like it or don't."
Well,
You
the,
can't
court,
spend
the
the
courts
rest
have kind of done that, Aaron. He still
Oh,
is ignoring the court. So
Well, then the consequences are going to start to
Yep.
pile up on him.
But
absolutely.
you can't spend the rest of your days on the planet being in some sort of dispute with somebody. It's just not good
Yeah.
for
No,
you.
even grumpy old friends.
That is true, Aaron.
Patrick Williams, age 26, has pleaded guilty when he appeared, in Grand Court via video link on Friday, May the 13th. He's pleading guilty to firearm possession charges. So to possess an unlicensed firearm, which in this jurisdiction is a very, very serious offense, comes with a mandatory sentence of either 10 years if you're found guilty or 7 years if you plead guilty.
Wow.
So yes. So he's going to be
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate
What,
for him.
60% discount on that.
Yeah. So he'll be
Half off
there for a
almost.
while. I'm trying to remember if they get a discount for the mandatory sentences. I have to double check that.
Well, a no-brainer would be like if you're going to be guilty, to plead guilty because you get 3 years off right there,
I know.
and then another 60%. I mean, you're talking like 3.5 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Privy Council has ruled that the death penalty is legal in Trinidad. This is a very unusual case. We're trying to get some understanding of this because in most other places, including the UK, they don't use the death penalty. But this is a story coming out of BBC. So 9 of the UK's most senior judges refused to ban the mandatory death penalty, which still exists in Trinidad and Tobago, after lawyers convicted a murderer named Jay Chandler to be sentenced to death under the 1925 law. And his attorneys were trying to rule that it was unconstitutional. However, the judges expressed some concerns about the Constitution, but said that they could not intervene. And the death penalty is still a mandatory punishment for every person convicted of murder under Trinidad and Tobago's Offenses Against the Person Act 1925.
I'm just going to say it's probably an infringement on the person who got killed on their constitutional rights.
You would think, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah,
could
I
give
think
those up.
the death penalty has a lot more of a thing just because, people sometimes a lot of people can be innocent that are so I get both sides of the whole death penalty conversation. There's some people where you're like, "You absolutely did this. We know it." There's, like, so much evidence, and then there's not evidence, and they still get
Mhm.
sentenced to death.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
there was that woman recently who, you know,
Mhm.
got blamed for killing her baby. Anyways, it's just when she didn't. It's just a lot of
Eye for
situations
an
that I
eye.
think yes, but you've
Yeah.
got to prove that they also did take that
Well,
eye before
Oh,
you
look at the time, folks. I gotta run.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Great
All right,
conversation.
guys.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Okay, yeah, it's that time. Gosh, sometimes the time just flies when you're having fun. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get kicked off here in about 20 seconds on the radio. Let me just grab our Facebook link real quick.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Cold Hard Truth. How are you guys doing today? Hope that you are fabulous. We got a lot to cover. OMG, as these young people would say. Whoa, it's a lot. A lot's been going on. What can I say? Good morning to Bobo 89.1 FM listeners. Good morning to YouTube listeners. Good morning to Facebook listeners. Yeah, we're all here in this boat together. And what can I tell you? We got a lot to cover. All right. Where do we begin? Well, let's begin with Wilson Mendoza. And he went to jail last night, and we're going to break it all down for you. Okay, let's start. All right, folks. Excuse my manners. Where are my manners for my YouTube listeners? Good morning to Irvelyn. Good morning to Miss Vernita. Good morning to Lulu. Irvelyn says, I have a feeling this morning's show is going to be a good one. Well, they're all pretty good, Melita, but maybe this one's going to be extra saucy. I was making my tea this morning, and I was in such a rush to jump in the studio that I left the cup with the honey and the tea bag in it and the hot water right on the counter. So when we get a little commercial break later on, I'll grab my hot tea. But in the meantime, I've got water. So make sure you've got your teacup filled. Good morning, Melita. Best news ever, says Irvelyn, about the arrest. We're going to break it down. Juanita, good morning. She says, keep up the good work you're doing. God bless you. Juanita is joining us from Georgia. Good morning from Georgia. Chantal, good morning to you. Irvelyn says the NRA needs to put the road in now that he's not around to cause problems. Yeah, I need to find out where we're at with that, because I'll tell you what he said in court yesterday. Girl, it was a hot mess. I feel like this dude needs psychological attention. He really, really does. And if someone doesn't intervene, one day we're all going to be sitting here, and I'm certainly going to be saying, well, we saw that coming. So yes. Oh, no radio. Say what? Okay. I don't know what is. Oh, did I forget to hit the radio button? Silly me. Oops. Trying to get used to these buttons. Let me see now. Yikes, totally my fault. I think the brain can only do so many things at one time. Good morning, Bobo 89.1 listeners. My apologies. I forgot to hit that connect button. The screen was there. That's why you need a couple extra seconds before you go live, right? Olivia, good morning. Good morning to Scott. Says we got a day full of news this morning. We sure do. Good morning, Marina. Siobhan, thank you so much for letting me know that nobody on radio could actually hear me. Good morning to radio listeners. Lisa, good morning. Wee Wee is here. Good morning to Susan. Felicia, Taz Girl is joining us from Ohio. What? Nice. Catherine, good morning to you. Keisha, how are you? KK says 1 week isn't enough, but it's going to be a warning for him and then. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Diamond Princess has got it locked. Robert, thank you for joining us. Marshall and Carmely. All right, let's get this show on the road. 200 people on the live stream, folks, and countless more listening to us via radio. So here's the thing. Wilson Mendoza has been a pain in the you-know-what for the better half of 5 years for the Adam family. This dude is special on so many levels. Like I said, I think he's got some kind of borderline personality disorder, narcissism disorder, something that has to explain his extreme behavior over this road. Like, it just isn't normal, right? So what are we talking about here? Here's a man, and someone said to me yesterday, Sandy, I don't quite know what's going on. I don't understand it. Well, we've been following this at least since 2017 when we got involved. Because what happened was the Adam family were suffering in silence for a really, really long time. And finally, somebody said, come on now, enough is enough. You need to contact Sandy and you need to get the word out there about how this man is using and abusing you and the system and everything else. Well, you know, when we got involved, we called a protest and took it to the next level. And then all of a sudden, the officials who, you know, they had been begging them to help were like, oh, yeah, we can do something about this. So let's rewind. Back it up. He purchased this property from Mr. Crosby Ebanks. And Mr. Crosby is a little old man from West Bay who is in love with land and in love with money. He's actually said to me he's not going to leave his children anything. They're going to have to buy it from him. Well, I ain't seen a dead man take nothing with him yet. So, Mr. Crosby, you wait for that to work out for you. A dead man selling land, that would be new. Even in the Cayman Islands, where y'all are land crazy, money hogs. That's nothing I've ever seen. So good luck to Mr. Crosby in that front. Anyway, so he sold the property to Mendoza on the understanding that there is this access point, this right of way that have existed for about 45 years. And it runs through multiple properties, right? So in order for Mendoza to get to his own property, he has to traverse the exact same right of way that has existed, that he's now protesting and wants to shut off from the Adam family. He has to traverse, I think, at least 2 or 3 other landowners' properties in order to get to his. Now, the crazy thing is, he doesn't believe in what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? So he wants the privilege of utilizing an access point that has existed long before him, but he doesn't want anybody else using that access point. Talk about the ultimate. You see, this isn't just your regular kind of selfish. This is like your narcissism selfish. This is what I'm telling you. Like, there's something just not right with this dude. And I'm no professional, so this is just my amateurish opinion. So anyway, there he is, making these demands on the family. By the way, this is after he got a discount for the property. So you buy a property knowing that there is an existing right-of-way, prescriptive right-of-way. And then you turn around, right, and say, oh, I'm now here to close off that right-of-way. To me, the gall, the audacity is just really, really shocking. How does this make any sense in his head? So he has been fighting tooth and nail to cut off this access point. He agitates the Adams family. He threatens their children, especially the boys, because he think, oh, they're young, maybe they have a little bit extra testosterone than him running through their veins. He has a little bit of experience on them. So he will taunt them. Oh, come on my property and see what I'm going to do. He has literally threatened to kill them. We have the audio. Just go and Google his name on our website, and you will see for yourself that, God, we've covered this story so many times. The audio is there where he says, I'm going to kill you. And what happens? Nothing. Authorities do nothing about it. It really is shocking what he's been able to get away with. But he makes a complaint to the authorities, and all of a sudden, somebody flips his hat off his head, and they haul the entire Adam clan into court for common assault. It was so bad, folks, that when we got involved back in 2017, I said, listen, something is wrong here. The authorities, the police don't seem to be handling this right. He had this little lackey boy named, what's his name again? I think he's the former premier's brother-in-law. Nice guy otherwise, but in this case, he just wasn't handling this right. What is his name? Somebody remind me of his name. Anyway, this dude shows up and goes into the Mendoza residence every time he shows up. He doesn't do that with the Adam family, but he goes into the Mendoza residence, sits down, has a cup of whatever they're feeding him or giving him to drink, BS pretty much. And he comes out and tells the Adam family, well, why didn't you just give up this prescriptive right? It's like, dude, you are here as an officer of the law to keep the peace. This is technically a civil matter and not a criminal matter, except that, Mendoza believes in encroaching and breaching all sorts of orders. So Grove, what is his first name? Grove. Oh, well, it'll come to me here in a second. So Officer Grove tells the Adam family, oh, just give up. Let this Johnny come lately, who happens to be married to a Caymanian, who never lived in the Cayman Islands, but her mommy from East End. Let him take your prescriptive right that you've enjoyed for all this time. Because what it was, it wasn't even a proper road or anything. It still isn't a proper road, right? They just accessed it to get to their house for all these years. And the Adam family has been there forever. There was nobody else in the area. So Mendoza comes in. He buys this Iron Shore property, which he thinks is beachfront. The dude is acting like this is prime real estate on 7 Mile Beach. And that's part of the problem. Is it Cliff? Isn't Cliff the brother? No, I think it's the brother. Cliff isn't the officer. This is the brother. Cliff is the one who works in construction. So anyway, he buys this Cliff Rock property and he has big hopes of turning this into like this amazing Airbnb. Now, this is all the way down is that area of West Bay called Batabanu? Is that where Batabanu is? Or Boatswain's Bay or whatever. It's like in the heart of West Bay. But, again, everybody has this, oh, I can have a shithole of a house anywhere in the Cayman Islands, turn it into an Airbnb and make millions. So that was his pipe dream. And he's like, well, having the Addams family get to their home is interfering with my pipe dream because the access point does run through a portion of his property. But dude, you knew that when you purchased the property. That's why you got a discount from money-hungry Crosby Ebanks over here. So how do you get a discount? How do you go into a situation knowing that a prescriptive right exists and then turn around and decide that you want to change that? You see, this is where people get a little bit annoyed with the stupidity of some of the people who come into the Cayman Islands. It's like, how does this make any sense to you? There is a little bit of, you come here and you find a situation, respect it enough to not think that you get to change all the rules just because it's you. Coming from New Jersey. The attitude, the audacity. It's the words sometimes escape me to describe what this family has been through Denby, yes, Denby Grooves. Grooves or Groves, whatever. You guys know who I'm talking about. Yes, now Denby, yeah. So this is pretty crazy, right? So the family is being mistreated, the Adam family, and abused by these people. The children of the Mendozas are allowed, these are young kids, to throw rocks at the home of an elderly Caymanian couple. I mean, the lack of disrespect and what they're teaching their kids is just really, again, shocking for most of us. We're just like, people don't do this. You know, the concept of living neighborly, it's like unbelievable. So back in 2019, July of 2019, I think it was actually June that we got involved, but July of 2019, things really took a head. So we had a little protest down there. He ran to the police and complained about me using certain words, which, you know, I'm not going to pretend like my mouth joins church all the time. Yes, there are times I'm going to tell you about your behind, and there's probably only so many words I can use to express it. And in the case of Mendoza, what can I say? Guilty as charged, Your Honor. This is one time I did do it. Yes, I cursed at him, and they call that common assault. Okay. Meanwhile, this guy's allowing his kids to throw rocks at the home of an elderly couple. Nobody does anything about that. He is threatening children. Well, they're adult children, but he's threatened the children of Mike Adam and Lisa Adam. Nobody does anything about that. He is blocking this access point that has existed for over 45 years. Nobody does anything about that. So we get into the mix and we start letting the general public know what's going on here. And then general public, you guys are appalled. You're like, what the hell? So you guys came out and you protested with me. Good. That was a start. He only ups the ante because he's that kind of person. So he starts putting boulders in the way. I think he'd done that before we even protested, to be quite frank. And poor Miss Lisa is so stressed out. She has some sort of a attack at home. And this was July the 1st of 2019. The EMS staff, do you guys remember this video? They were unable to access the home of Lisa and Mike Adam to get her the assistance that she needed. Go check out the video, folks. It's like all in the story. It's shocking, but it's all there. Right? So EMT staff, they actually had to pick up these big boulders in order for them to be able to get to someone's house to render them assistance. This woman could have died because of this delay. And it's actually against the law for you to obstruct anything that gives any police, emergency rescue services, fire, anybody access. What happens to Mendoza? Nothing. This has been a complete failing of the system and really an indictment on a lot of different areas of government. When we talk about lack of enforcement, we're going to talk about that some more here in a minute with street vendors. But this is a prime example where a good citizen of this country, Mr. Mike, has served this country as a civil servant for umpteenth years. He served as a politician. He sat on boards. You know, he's played by the rules. He's a rule player. This is a man who, listen, if Mr. Mike has to raise his voice at you, you know you have more than crossed the line with him. Because he's just not that kind of person. Because there's a lot of us who sat back and went, part of the problem here is Mr. Mike is too nice. Maybe if he had put his foot down 4.95 years ago, when Mendoza walked in and started waltzing around him with his foolishness, we wouldn't be in this situation now, because Mendoza would have been like, oh, I can't play around with this man. But, you know, too nice. Mr. Mike is just a nice guy. He's done it all by the book. He's tried. And this man has been railroading him and his family and taking advantage of the situation. 936-2626. 936 Bobo. What would you do? I need to ask you all this question. Good morning, Louie. James is here. Miss Joy joining us from Texas. Clifton is also listening. Over 300 people on the live stream now. Thank you, Miss Rhonda, for reminding me of his name. John Henry is here. Morning, Gigi. What would you do, JB and Miss Moya, Nathina? You guys tell me. if you had this neighbor from hell, what would you have done for the past 5 years? James, call me on the WhatsApp line and tell me what you would have done. Have any of you ever dealt with this? A neighbor from hell who's just tortured you for years? Good morning, Sonia. Would you have moved? You know? Omiria is saying that she's drinking her hot tea in Northward this morning. Bonnie, good morning. This is a difficult situation. Because what you don't get is every single day that you cross this dude's house, the animosity that has existed now for 5 years. I mean, it has to just make you feel away. And he continues and continues, and nothing is stopping him. So since 2019, this has been on the CMR radar, and we have been paying attention. So after we protested June, July, the government jumps up, finally, the government of the day, and said, right, we need to make this a public road because all of this goes away. We're able to put in proper infrastructure in terms of we can pave it, we'll maintain the road, we'll do all this stuff because the dude puts up a fence, he puts up a brick wall. I mean, he does everything to prevent these people from getting to their homes. And then what he does is he says, oh, by the way, you can go through somebody else's property and create a new access point. That's his solution. The audacity is just, it really is shocking. Like, I'm not exaggerating this story. I'm not making this up. These are the facts. So September of 2019, the government says, right, 3 months, we're going to rectify this situation and make this a public road. So what happens? Government goes through and they file all their documents. National Roads Authority. Who else would have been involved in the process? What's the one that does the surveying? Land Registry. They all come in. They do their stuff. NRA has a process that you go through. So NRA has legally the right to acquire your property. Yes, this is a legal right. And they'll give you something for it. Remember, they acquired homes off the Hartwell bypass? Not Hartwell, off of Linford Pearson for the purposes of putting in the bypass that they're now working on. In fact, in that instance, they actually built people, some of the homeowners, a new home. But this dude, on the day that the NRA, after serving all their notices, etc., the day they show up, he is there blocking the road. The NRA workers are sitting down with big bulldozers and heavy equipment under a shaded tree, wasting time, hours upon hours, because Mendoza refuses to allow them to carry out their work. I mean, like I said, you just cannot make this up. And what is so interesting is before that happened, before they showed up that day, after he got their notice, he runs to the Adam family and say, oh my God, can we work this out as neighbors? Right, dude. Oh, we spoke to one of the sons. Can you speak to your dad? Can we work this out? We can work this out. Dude, you've tormented these people for like 3.5 years, I think, at that point. And now you want us to believe because government is going to come in and take it over that, oh, there's a way to work this out. What's the workout? It went from being a prescriptive right. The Adams family went to the land registry and they got it registered. So now it's a registered right of way. That wasn't good enough for him. Now that government has taken it over, you're begging the family to, oh, please allow us to work this out. And they were like, no, I think we need to let the process happen the way that it should now. Because they could see what kind of dude they were dealing with, right? He would say that. And what are you going to do? Tell the government not to put in the public road. And by the next week, he's at it again. Anyway, so on that day, back in September, late September, he refused to allow government workers to do their job. Police are standing up there doing nothing. I'm like, where in the world is this permissible? Where in the world does this happen? Most places in the world, he would have been arrested, carted off to jail at that moment. But no, not in the Cayman Islands, folks. It makes you wonder how the rules are applied, because you and I would be hauled off for far less. And here he is permitted to do whatever, right? Obstruct government workers. Nobody cares. Obstruct a right of way, a prescriptive right of way, and then a registered right of way. Officials do nothing. The police came under some fire naturally, and they're like, oh, well, it's a civil matter. We don't get involved in civil matters. Really? I can count the number of times the police have been involved in civil matters. Threatening to arrest people if you don't fulfill a contract. I've seen it with my own two eyes. But on this occasion, we're not going to get involved. But yet when something happens, you walk into this man's house and sit down forever as though the two of you are best friends. Our CIPS hasn't handled this properly. So when it finally started to escalate then in September, the police commissioner's like, let's have a public meeting. Yeah, okay. The public was like, we're not happy about how this has been handled. There seems to be some sort of double standard going on here. So in November, they all get together with RCIPS and they have a meeting. You guys remember this as well. And the RCIPS says, right, tell you what, can you guys just keep the peace? That's all we're really here for. Remember this? Fear thy neighbor. You got to read this article. West Bay land saga appears to have no end in sight. So the police are claiming, we'll help you guys out. Let's see what we can do here. See the access point right there? But you see, this guy, and I'm so glad that the judge saw right through him yesterday. This guy will show up in front of authority and pretend like he's a nice guy. This is the duplicity of Milson Mendoza. Yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Well, I can tell you what happened yesterday. The judge was not buying it 1 minute because your actions speak louder than your words. And he's got years of action that says, I don't give a what about the authority, the law, or anything else. He's literally flipping his middle finger off at the law. And yesterday, his cup of tea, his cocoa was up. So this has been going on and on and on and on. Look at the number of times the police have been called out. 20 calls were made by the Mendoza residents because, again, that's what he does. He's going to make phone calls and pretend like he's the victim. You know those people who pretend like they're the victim, but in fact, they're the agitators? Well, that's Mendoza. 20 calls made by him, 10 from the Adam residents, and 1 from Mr. Crosby. Now, let me talk about Mr. Crosby here for a second. So Mr. Crosby is one of the landowners. So you see this on the diagram that I'm showing you guys online. This is Kings Road that runs parallel. This is how you get to it, right? You take Kings Road, and then before it was gazetted as Lisa Lane, it was just an access point. No name, no nothing. So this little red line here on the map, this is where you go to get to the Lisa home, the Adam family home. This is it back here. The little piece here that you see cleared out, this is Mendoza's residence. So he goes over, I forget the lady who owns the first piece, nice Caymanian young lady. She's involved in a lot of environmental things. She was actually involved in the anti-port movement as well. Can't recall her name now, but she owns the first parcel. And then Crosby owns another parcel in here because he's the one who sold it to Mendoza. And then there's a guy named Mr. Gomez. I'll get his first name here in a second. He owns another piece in here. So literally Mendoza goes over the property of 3 other landowners to get to his home, which is right here. But as you can see, and he did this on purpose, because when you look at the design of his house, you notice how close he put the design of the house right next to the access point. That was so that he could have an argument. And this is where you got to look at people who think they're smart and go, no, Bobo, not today. He put it so close to the access point to be able to have an argument, which he has since used, that, oh, my children are in danger from your cars coming in and out. Really? The Adam family is not using this as a raceway. It's a bumpy, rough mall road. I mean, you can only go so far in the mall road, right? couple miles per hour. They're looking out for the children. But that's the argument. Well, my kids are outside playing. Well, who told you to build your house almost in the right of way? Because that's exactly, look at how much land this man has over in this side over here that he could have used, or even this side. But his big plans are over on this side, he's going to put a bunch of Airbnbs. Now, Mendoza used to work for Logic back in the day, and I did not realize that apparently at some point I had actually met him, because when the storyline first started, he contacted me, wanted to give me his side of the story. And he's like, oh, remember, I met you before. I came into your shop when you were in West Bay. And I'm like, okay, dude, don't know you. But what does that have to do with the price of rice in China? That don't have nothing to do with me. Whether you think you know me or not, if we met before, right is right and wrong is wrong. So you met me before, and that means what to you? That means that you can abuse this family and you think I'm going to be in your corner? I'm just on the side of right here. I don't care that we've met before. I don't care that you worked for Logic. I don't care who you are. I don't care who your mama is and who your grandpa is. I'm just not business. If you're doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong. Simple. So then, he get vexed at me, of course, because he didn't get what he wanted out of me. And listen, you know me already. Y'all know. Reckon that I care. I'm just like, So that's what he did. It was all very, very strategic. When I was looking at the map, I'm like, Mendoza thinks he's smart. So, I'm also a little bit of a sleuth. I fancy myself a detective in my off time. So I start, I start looking into things. And I discover that Mendoza, he has some kind of military background. They probably kicked him out for insurgency or nasty attitude. But at the end of the day, he has a little house, a family home in New Jersey that's worth about, at the time, I'm going to say maybe $40,000, if that. Nothing really exciting. And I said, okay, this helps me to understand the psychology of what we're dealing with here, right? You have a man who probably never thought in a million years he'd own anything in the Cayman Islands. The wife didn't live here. They met in New Jersey, where she grew up, where she was born, whatever. So they have the opportunity to come here. He gets a little job at Logic, and I guess they get this piece of property at a steal because of the right-of-way. I'm going to put up my Airbnb. People can overlook the Rockcliffe Ocean. They're going to want that view. All these big plans. But this right-of-way access point kind of puts a little dent in the situation for him. So he thinks, I'm going to carry out this reign of terror on this elderly couple with the hopes of getting my way. And boy, does he do that. So he challenges the government after the government steps in September, refuses to allow them to put in the road, physically preventing them. At one point when they were there that day, they had to remove a wall. This goes to show you how our government is just OMG. They go and broker a deal with him. Listen to this now. They go and broker a deal with him where, okay, we're going to take your wall down because we have to in order to put in this road. But afterwards, we're going to rebuild your wall to make you happy. I'm like, wow, how do I get that done for me? It just doesn't make any sense. And he still wouldn't permit them to do it. So let's talk about Crosby for a second here. Poor Mr. Crosby. I don't know who his family is, but they need to have his head checked. Because what they end up doing is Mendoza uses Mr. Crosby to carry out a lot of the little bits and pieces that, he's not able to do. So that day, one of the most interesting observations when the NRA and all the government officials were there is that they jump in a car. They'd actually use their vehicles to block government trucks. Then they jump in the other car because he's got some sort of an SUV. The wife has a Mercedes. So they jump into the other car. Crosby gets in the back seat like the little house, that he is. And I'm telling you, as I'm sitting there watching all of this fall out and happen in real time, my brain is like, wow. Remember the movie Django? You had the one slave who lived inside the house who at the end, when he gets what he deserved, we were all like clapping, like, good. That is what Mr. Crosby is to me. I see Mr. Crosby and how he moves and how he operates. And I am shocked. When I was talking to him, I mean, he could barely talk for himself. Young lady. And I said, Mr. Crosby, with all due respect, because you ain't getting none from me today, what are you doing? How can you be working with this man? What is this all about for you? What has he promised you? Well, like I said, Mr. Crosby appears to care about one thing, and that's called money. So I don't know what kind of kickbacks he was planning on getting, chill. Anyway, Mr. Crosby gets in the back of the vehicle, like the little lackey boy that he is, and they drive off and they go to the lawyer's office and they get a court injunction. Now, let me say this about injunctions. A lot of injunctions, especially when you say, oh, I want to sue someone, I want to sue government. These are interim injunctions, right? Until the case can come. They're fairly easy to get. You just have to show that you have an arguable case, throw some legal documents together, and all of a sudden you're there. So I forget who he had represent him initially, but Crosby, Gomez, and Mendoza leading the force, they decide to get this injunction. So they prevent the NRA from putting in the road. So you know how it goes. Grand court case takes months to even get a court date. They finally get a court date. They argue it. Years later, he lost the case. So yesterday in court, let's fast forward a little bit. He loses the case. So now the NRA needs to get on it. So he's like, oh, I'm going to appeal. I don't know if he's actually served a notice of intent to appeal. But NRA, I hope you guys are listening this morning. Because yesterday morning, he said to the judge, because he's still using this, whatever. He said to the judge, he has no money for a lawyer. He said KSG sent him a quote, and it's too expensive. All the money has run out on his foolishness. So he has no money to pay these lawyers. Because remember now, he lost the case, so nobody's going to be paying their legal fees. Whatever his previous lawyers were, and I can't remember if it's KSG or not. But they being Mendoza, Crosby, and Gomez, are all now responsible for paying their own legal fees. So in February, the Adam family, through their lawyers, finally got their own court injunction, because even when he was waiting, listen to the audacity of this man. Even when he was waiting on the case with the government to come, be listed and go to court and whatever, he was still building back the wall. He was still erecting bricks and all this kind of stuff, blocking it. At one point, the police came and removed his vehicle, towed his vehicle, because he was blocking the road. And we said, how can the police sit back and allow this to happen? When you have an injunction, right? The injunction pretty much puts everything in this type of injunction, everything on pause. So the injunction is against the NRA. Yes, you can't do anything. But at the same time, how is it permissible that Mendoza is allowed to go in and continue blocking this access point? The injunction should mean the whole thing is at a standstill and nobody does anything. So finally, the Adam family goes to court, and in February, they get an injunction against him that says you cannot, and an injunction is against Wilson Jonathan Mendoza and his wife, Devin Ann Mendoza. It said you can be jailed, you can be fined, you can have your assets seized if you continue to block the access point on Lisa Lane, both Swains Bay, West Bay. Justice Walters issued the injunction. This was an emergency hearing because he kept doing it. And essentially what happened is, since this injunction was issued, he continued to block the access point, continued to add these big rocks and boulders. Here he is in this video. doing the same thing, putting up a fence, blocking it with his vehicle, right? Hauling rocks. See, he hires a man to block off the stuff. And the injunction is very, very clear. And there's a penal, there he is. There's a penal code attached to the injunction. It's like I said, I think he's narcissistic, but maybe there's something a bit more going on here because he seems to flare up and flare down and flare up. So maybe an element of bipolarism, there's some kind of clinical diagnosis that could really go on here. Look at the energy this man has. Dude doesn't want to work otherwise. Remember how when we first got involved in this, a lot of the laborers who assisted him in building this house, which he thinks is a multi-million-dollar mansion, came forward and said, this dude owes us money. We did tiling, we did this, we did that, and he hasn't paid us all these years later. That's the kind of character we're dealing with. But yet he has the energy for this. Look at him. Picking up these big rocks and throwing them down. The dude is manic. So anyway, he shows up in court yesterday for breaching this injunction. And Wade DaCosta, congratulations to you. Good arguments. Said, listen, this man is obviously just flagrant in his disregard for the law. Disregard for this injunction. He doesn't care. The wall remains up. He's added these boulders, these big rocks, whatever. His wife doesn't show up yesterday to court, which is interesting because she's always showed up before. So she, I guess, refused to show up. He walks in with an Ernst & Young briefcase to represent himself, which, by the way, his wife works at Ernst & Young. I wonder if they know their briefcase was in court on his shoulder yesterday. So he shows up and he waltzes in there. What a showdown. Y'all needed to be there. I was just like, this dude is legit not playing with a full deck. So, Mr. DaCosta talks about the law, talks about the order, says this is what the order said, this is what he was supposed to do. And then at some point, he says, well, Your Honor, I disagree. I disagree with pretty much everything that the lawyer has said, and it's in my affidavit. And we've created an alternative, we being Crosby and Gomez, his latest lackey boy. We've created an alternative access point for them to be able to get to their family. And the judge is just sitting there writing his notes. And to be honest, I've never really seen Justice Walters in action. So this was quite interesting. And he's making his notes. Remember now, this is after in December, Magistrate Philippa McFarland recorded no convictions against the Adam family. And she said, you guys need to mediate the situation. This is not going to end well. Why are you continuing to carry on like this? So although this was a criminal case, as it relates to the Adam family, she actually said, and I quote, I hasten to say this goes both ways. She implored the parties to consider mediation. But like I said, the duplicity of what this man does is he will sit there and say, oh, yes, Your Honor. Yes, we're open to mediation. Him and the wife. This is what they do. Yes, Your Honor. We're open to mediation. We want to resolve this. Oh, we're such nice people. And then the second they get out of the courtroom, they're the ones flipping you the finger. That's how they work. I mean, I've seen it with my own two eyes. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? It's like this passive, aggressive, narcissistic personality disorder. So he ignores everything. He's not serious about mediation. He only has one objective, and that is to get this right of way for himself. That's it. Close off the right of way. So now he stands up and tells the judge that he's created him, Crosby. Crosby, are you listening this morning? Are your children listening to this program? Because somebody needs to talk some sense into Crosby. Tell him to stay out of this mess. Gomez, I don't know who Gomez is. Who's Gomez, by the way? Can somebody talk some sense into him? So here's the injunction. right? In February, he totally disregards it. There's a penal order attached that says we can send you to jail. So yesterday, Wade DaCosta said, Your Honor, it's time that this guy goes to jail. Like, seriously, what else is there to do? He just ignores it. When he stands up, well, I disagree with most of what he said. The judge was like, is that all you have to say? He's like, yes, Your Honor. I was like, oh, this isn't going to end good for him. He doesn't have a clue what's about to come down the pipeline right now. Question, why? Where's your wife? Well, I didn't know that she needed to be here. Well, she has showed up to every other thing that has happened in court. So the day that a penal order is coming down, she doesn't show up? Really bizarre. Because, her name is on the penal order, on the injunction as well. So yesterday, both of them could have been going to jail. And those children would have had no parents for a couple of days. What's her name again? Devon Ann Mendoza. I don't know what your situation is in your household, but if I were to wager a guess, having to live with someone like this who acts like this in public, I actually probably feel a little bit sorry for you, because I feel like you're probably a victim suffering in silence with this man and his nonsense, but you're the one who brought him here. So ultimately, we look at you and recognize that something can't be right with you either. You cannot disrespect and allow someone like this to disrespect people in your community. I'm going to give y'all an example, right? Y'all know I was married to an American guy. May he rest in peace. Nice enough fella, but sometimes Americans are woefully confused when they go to somebody else's country about culture. And so one day, my sister-in-law at the time decided that she was going to come and visit the Cayman Islands. Never been to the Cayman Islands before. Probably never even heard of the Cayman Islands before. But anyway, Americans can be very ignorant in their knowledge of the world outside of their little towns or their little state of California or wherever it is that they live, right? So she comes to visit, and she says to me, we're having dinner, and she says, oh, I've met a friend, because she's the environmentalist type, very nice enough person, loves her music and played in a band and very earthy, and all this stuff is wonderful. I'm going in the bushes looking for that snail that, you're going to save all the way up in East End. Nice. Very good. So somehow she's part of a bird watching organization or something. So, they find each other everywhere they go. So she found some bird watching woman up in the East End. And so she's sitting at my dining room table, by the way, telling me how this woman, this bird watching American woman in East End, who's an expert in all things Caymanian, is telling her that people live there in the bushes, like in the wild kind of thing. And I'm sitting there looking at her. Her name is Cecilia. And I said, Cece, that's what we called her. I said, Cece, please, I'm going to really ask you in this moment to not tell me anything more about this bird watching lady. I don't even know who the hell she is. But I said the level of ignorance about people, living in canopies, living in the bushes. Caymanians are so ass backwards. We're so stupid. We don't have, I was like, please, why you're 2 steps ahead? And before I have to kick you out of my front door, let's not go down that conversation. I said, it is insulting for people to come to your country and tell you what your history is, right? Tell you false and negative things about, these Caymanians up here, they live in the bushes. Like, they're so lowly and they're so, I'm like, really? Where do y'all come from? I was like, Cece, please don't have me raise my voice here today. That place. I know she got upset and she got offended. But I looked at my husband at the time and I'm like, and you don't interject yourself in this conversation. Listen, when you go to somebody else's country, you treat that country with a degree of respect. It is not your country. It is not your birthplace. And I look at the way, and I see perfect examples of this, of people who come to Cayman, and I watch them on social media. I see them in some of these women's group and mamas groups and this group and that group. They are an authority in everything here. They know more than people who've lived here for 95 years. They're an expert in everything. And their negativity about the Cayman Islands just really gets under my skin. I'm like, why are you even here? If you despise this country so much, if Caymanians are so stupid, Caymanians are so lazy, Caymanians are so this, not, why are you here? Surely your country has figured it out, especially America, right? What? 5% of the world's population, but you've got 25% of the incarcerated population in this world, but you guys have figured it out. You've got so much gun violence. People are just killing you because of the color of your skin, like we just recently saw the other day. It's like, yeah, you guys have it all figured out. You got the right formula. Really? No, you don't. We're all in this world together, and countries and individuals and businesses, we're trying to find our way. But don't come here with a holier than thou attitude when your shit stinks to high heaven. That's how I see it. And I'm not anti anybody. I'm anti foolishness. That's what I'm anti. Don't bring your foolishness to me any day of the week. And I don't care who you are and where you come from. So when I look at a situation like this, see, this couldn't be me. I'm married to a foreigner. I was married to a foreigner before. And I had to, in no uncertain terms, say, hey, buddy, these are the ground rules. I've lived in your country and I played by the ground rules. I was not an American citizen. And there are certain things that I did not do. Even though I had the quote unquote First Amendment, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. There's certain things that I just wouldn't say and I wouldn't interject myself in your country. It's just not my place. Huh? And when you come this way, try to reciprocate it. So, but Mrs. Mendoza, she herself doesn't have a clue. Because let us be honest here, she's Caymanian because her mother was Caymanian. I don't even think she was born here. She didn't grow up here. She doesn't know anything about the Cayman Islands. She is just now getting this benefit of, oh, I had a Caymanian parent. Now I can come here and get a piece of property. I can get my papers. I can give my husband his papers. So she doesn't understand the necessity to say to your husband, honey, this type of attitude is not Cayman kind. This is not how they do it here. You need to respect your elders. You don't mistreat people just because you can. This isn't America, where you guys are so dysfunctional that you have an entire show about fear thy neighbor. That's one of my favorite shows on Discovery. But it shows how dysfunctional America is. And every single one of those cases that are highlighted, I don't even know how many seasons they're in now, but every single one of those is about, they're up to season 8, apparently. Every single one of those is about neighbors who end up killing each other because they're so crazy and they fight over everything. This isn't America. We try to get along here. Caymanians are the most welcoming people in the world. And I say that with all sincerity. We really are. And sometimes that Cayman kind attitude is to our own detriment. Yes. So why isn't she having a conversation with her husband? Well, there's a couple possibilities here. There's a possibility that she has absolutely no control over him. This is probably the very likely possibility. Right? And if that is the case, well, I feel sorry for her. Because she is in a predicament that no woman or man really should be in, where you can't even speak to your spouse and say, honey, there's certain things that, we just don't do around here. Unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. So the judge said, that's all you have to say? Twice. Like, really? That's it? Then he starts to throw other people under the bus. Now, it's interesting because as much mouth as this man has, as much audacity, you think he would have been stand up in court and said, yes, Your Honor, I put the boulders there and I'm not moving them. What you going to do about it? That would have been a real man. Ooh, honey child. When he stood up, I could hear his voice cracking a little bit. Yes, Your Honor. And the judge was like, sir, you've been before me twice before. I made it very clear in my injunction what the penalties were going to be. And your attitude, you've ignored. And by the way, stick a pin. The man actually put up a sign. I can't show you the sign today because he might actually be sued in a civil court, right? So if he's sued in civil court now for defamation, this sign is going to become part of the lawsuit. But I wish I could show you the sign because again, it demonstrates what we're dealing with here. So he does this sign, talk about he has eminent domain over his land or some foolishness. And then he says, stealing our land for former government minister Mike Adam. Cold, hard facts. And he has a picture of Mr. Mike. He has this like cryptic hand that says eminent, another hand that says domain. I mean, the dude is sick. So he puts up this sign. And, DaCosta argues yesterday that, Your Honor, not only is this sign defamatory, but it also demonstrates his mindset that the man just don't care. And the judge agreed. He said, essentially, you have demonstrated through your behavior, through the signage, through everything, that you have no intentions of following the court order. And so today, sir, you will have to understand that there are consequences for your actions. You're being sentenced to 7 days in jail. Now, let's be very honest. That ain't no time. 60% off, he'll be out by day 2. But at the end of the day, the message is very, very clear. And the judge said, you need to understand that you cannot break the laws in this country and you cannot ignore a court-issued injunction. The injunction was crystal clear. You breached it and now you're going to go to jail. Simple as that. Now, let me talk about this because, of course, we were elated. And y'all know that I don't lie. So when the judge put down his verdict, I was like, good. I said, thank you, Jesus. It is about time. Right? I don't feel no way at all that this man is going to jail. It should have happened before, as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that I was hoping for yesterday is it was going to be longer than 7 days. So I'm sitting here going, right, well, I know our listeners want to hear this, so we'll be live streaming it. And we go live. And all of a sudden, people are like, hold on a second, Sandy. Why is this man not being hauled off in handcuffs? Y'all were like, we not for this. I must tell you that I had to chuckle when people said to me, haul him off in handcuffs. Why isn't he going off in handcuffs, Miss Sandy? And so I do want to explain this to you because I think this is one of those things in law that you got to kind of understand how the law works. So first of all, this is not a situation where he committed a criminal offense in the sense of it's not like he just, murdered someone or anything like that. This is a civil injunction that has a penal order attached to it. So yes, he's going to jail, but the court doesn't exactly treat him in the same way as it would someone who shows up for like a burglary or robbery or something like that, where they're going to haul you off in handcuffs and then, take you to court or take you straight to jail. So we would have loved to have seen that happen, but I just want to explain to you all why it didn't happen, because everybody's like, this is wrong, this is prejudice, da, 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 da. So not quite. It is just one of those situations, folks, where just, this is just how the system works. So he drove himself to court. He was permitted to leave. And then the authorities showed up last night because, of course, they've got to do some paperwork. So they sorted out some paperwork in order to accept him into the jailhouse. And that's how it works. So he wasn't getting special treatment with that part of it. That's just how it works. But still, what an amazing day. What an amazing day. So where do we go from here? Well, the judge made it very, very clear. Sir, you have to remove everything. And the judge said, if you don't do it, you're going to jail for 7 days. And if you still do not remove anything that's blocking this access point, if you allow anybody else to block the access point, you're going to go to jail again and for a longer period of time. It's not much. 7 days, like I said, he's probably going to serve about 1 or 2 days in actual jail. The judge decided, and I thought this was nice of him, I suppose, that he was not going to put the wife in jail, although he very well could have. So, Miss Mendoza, you need to pay attention, because you are allowing your husband, again, I don't know why or what your personal situation is. I wouldn't be surprised if you're probably a little bit scared of him. But you are allowing him to now put you at risk of going to jail. Who's going to be minding those rude children that you got? Certainly not the Adam family. They're not going to be stepping up saying, oh, we'll help you out here. Get it together. Dean Shalette, good morning. Give us a call, folks. 936-2626 is the number. Carmelie says, I agree 200%. Scott says, most people walking this earth are as dumb as a post. And the low end of the gene pool are the ones who think they know everything. Well, it is really, really interesting. And we've talked about it on this program before. The ones who think they know the most are the ones who know the least. Look it up, folks. It's called the Dunning-Kruger syndrome. Damien says, united we stand, divided we fall. Catherine joining us from the UK this morning. Good morning to you, my dear. Oh, sorry, Karen. You know, when I see Smalden, I always say Catherine, because she's always watching too. Karen, good morning. Damien says, in other countries, you would have got your head blown off, Bobo. Well, like I said, simply go and look at Fear Thy Neighbor of what happens in America. Miss Donna says, I agree with you 100%, Miss Sandy. Can't stand how they degrade and put us down. You know, it's just not necessary. Magdalene says, you are on point. These groups grieve my soul. There's one lady in one of the groups. Magdalene says, preach. Let me say this. There's one lady in one of these groups. She is, I believe she's Canadian. I don't know. I feel like she has some Jamaican connections, but I can't quite recall. She's a hairstylist. And apparently now she owns her own business. Boy, only in the Cayman Islands. Only in the Cayman Islands. So she owns her own business. Come here, Johnny, come lately. Started out working with Jennifer. Jennifer's Caymanian, married to Caymanian. And so this lady, all of a sudden, decides to open up her own salon, find a Caymanian partner. Y'all know y'all need to stop this foolishness now, this fronting that happens. And she is so rude. The other day she posted something and I said, why is this woman here? Everything, she is such an expert on the Cayman Islands. And, you know, she just knows everything. And she has an attitude and an opinion about everything under the sun. And I too have to wonder, can somebody tell me why Monica Glamazone, that's not her real name, but that's what she has up as her Facebook handle. Why is she here? Australian or something. I don't know where she's from. But she is OMG. Why? The things that I see this woman post and the way that she can insult Caymanians, I think to myself, I'm sure immigration is going to be running to give her status real soon. So someone just says she's married to Jamaican with Cayman connections. His last name is Scott. Yeah, I know. I've done my research on her, child. And all I can tell you is if she's not messing up your hair by making it fall out and dyeing it the wrong color, she's spending a lot of time on social media trying to insult Caymanians. And, forgive me if I'm not going to allow you to insult me. Maybe I've lived in America for too long. That could be the problem. Because in that country, you're just not going to do it. The stupidest American in the world is going to stand up and say, I'm an American. I got my rights. You can't talk about me like that. Or I'm going to, well, you know what they do. They're all about violence. We're not going to encourage that. But the point is, everybody else in the world, no matter how ridiculous they are, gets to have this nationalistic pride, and that's okay. Jamaicans travel halfway around the world and they got their Bob Marley and they got their flag hanging. And it's like, yeah, we're all about that. Everybody's like, good for the Jamaicans, but Caymanians, we sit back and we allow everybody to abuse us, everybody to have an opinion. Oh, Caymanians are lazy. You're lazy, darling. I didn't know what's wrong with you. Oh God, heaven forbid, Sandy, you've got a typo in that article. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm looking at your stupid newspapers in the UK and they have a typo every single post. It happens. So what? It's like, you can still read it, can't you? We'll correct it. Thank you for pointing it out. But it's just like this pervasive attitude is just unbelievable. Let's do a quick announcement here, folks. Caymanians, you need to stand up and be proud and be loud. And one of our stalwart Caymanians has passed away. And so here's an announcement about the service for her.
The family of the late Sybil Ione McLaughlin regret to announce her passing on May 10th, 2022. Left to mourn her passing are sons Chris and Gordon, daughters-in-law Suzanne and Heather, brother James and his wife Lisa, grandchildren Natasha and Nikita, special cousin Captain Paul Hurlston, other relatives and very many friends throughout the world. A funeral service will be held at 1 p.m. at Elmsley Memorial Church on Friday, May 20th, 2022. Miss Sybil will lie in state in Parliament on Thursday, May 19th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Private interment at South Sound Cemetery at a later date. Condolences may be registered at Baden Funeral Services Facebook page and at badenfuneralservice.com. In lieu of flowers, we encourage donations to be made at the Business and Professional Women's Club for an annual award of achievement to be given to a deserving Caymanian student in honor of Miss Sybil and her contribution to the women and girls of the Cayman Islands via account deposit to Butterfield, BPW Grand Cayman, account number 02-101-031-492.
Thank you so much. So we have quite a few people messaging. So listen, at the end of the day, I think that we need to be honest in the conversations that we're having. So Flashpoint says, whilst I understand why Caymanians have to enter into a relationship with foreigners, there's no accounting for the quality of the men that Caymanian women have been bringing into the Cayman Islands. Well, Flashpoint, let us be fair. It's not just Caymanian women that are bringing in some of the worst driftwood in the world. It's also Caymanian men. Flashpoint, I was with you up until when you made this gender-based. Who and I bring in some of the worst in their countries, they're prostitutes, than the Caymanian men. So, Listen, male or female, apparently we're all capable of making really stupid decisions when it comes to the caliber of what we're importing as relationships and spouses. So yes, I agree with you, except we diverge on the part of whether it's a man or a woman. It doesn't matter. We need to raise the bar. The government talking about what are they going to do about these marriages of convenience. Well, what you need to do is you need to educate your people about how entering into these marriages of convenience benefits no one, including them in the end. Because when the relationship fall apart, then they're the first one trying to run to immigration, cussing and carrying on, right? About this, that, and the other thing. So the marriage of convenience issue is solved really, really easily when our people stop playing games. Stop marrying someone when you're 85 years old and they're 25. What do you think they really want with you? I guess if you have some pension money, they might be looking for your pension money. Someone says we need to raise the bar. Yes, we do. But you know why we can't raise the bar? Because a lot of our own people, and I can say this as a Caymanian, now y'all gonna be pissed off at me this morning, but who cares? A lot of our own people are ignorant. So they themselves, what they look at, right? Oh, this that dance hall lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. We have adopted cultures that are not even our own. And the pervasiveness with which we have accepted the worst kinds of cultures is shocking to me. Adopt a culture that elevates you, right? That encourage you to pick up and read a book, that encourage you to educate your children. That's what we should be adopting. And instead, we just bring in all kind of rigmarole. Well, guess what? Let's talk about what else was trending this weekend. So on Saturday, I was even in Cayman this weekend. I got off this rock for a minute. Took a little break. And, getting these messages Saturday morning. Miss Sandy, did you see this picture of people haggling and selling on the roadside? I said, oh, Jesus, why y'all don't give me a break? Why the constant foolishness? So somebody sent me this photo and I said, here we go. People at the Rotary stand selling clothes on the roadside. Now, Caymanians, for the most part, are pretty law-abiding citizens. It's kind of changing a little bit, and I don't like the direction that that's going, and we need to reverse that trend. But we don't do certain things. We don't sell clothes on the roadside out of a box. This is not a good look. Somebody said this was great advertising for Burger King, though. I gotta tell you. Woo! Burger King. That post must have on our social media page, just Facebook alone, it must have reached about 30,000 people. So sometimes you can't pay for advertising. You just get it for free. So yes, this is actually an amazing promotion for Burger King, but the real issue here is that some way along the line, street vendors are emerging with a vengeance. And I understand that this isn't anything new. People are messaging me saying, Sandy, come down Fairbanks every single Saturday. This is what's happening. Right on the roadside, they pull up in cars, and then all these cars are coming, and, it's a spectacle. And I think to myself, how is this permitted? Now, if you read the comment, because a lot of people are like, oh, Filipinos, this has nothing to do with Filipinos. I want to make this very, very clear. Some of the biggest fans on CMR are Filipinos. And they understand where I stand, and they get it. A lot of them. This is about DCI, Works, CBC, I don't know who's responsible these days, not enforcing the law. So if you allow someone to breach a law with no consequences, well, there will be people who will do it. Simple. But people should know that you're not, number one, allowed to carry on a business without a proper business license. And if you're here on a work permit, You're not supposed to just be able to waltz in and get a business license without a Caymanian partner. These are the laws. And operating a side hustle, claiming to be having a garage sale when that's like a business, is also not permissible. So you can have a garage sale in your house. It's called a garage sale because you have it in your garage, or in your house if you don't have a garage, in your yard, to sell a few things. But when you start to have a garage sale, where people are doing it every weekend, it's like a regular business, they're importing stuff to sell, that's no longer a garage sale, that is a business. So this post reached 28,027 people just on Facebook alone. So when we have people saying, oh, somebody had time to take a picture and to post this and didn't even bother to tap them on the shoulder, this isn't about them. This is about a lack of enforcement by the agencies that are being funded by taxpayer money. That means you and I. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth.
Good morning, honey child. How are you?
My dear, I'm right here, honey child.
My darling, you hit a very important topic this morning. We, as Caymanians, have sit back and allow people to come into our beautiful, beautiful island, do as they please, and hush, hush. They brought their culture here, stuffed it down in our throats, and no one chooses to say anything. And it's like I stated, as soon as you open your mouth and speak out against it, you're blacklisted. We have laws in the Cayman Islands. We have people hired to carry out these laws, and they are not doing it. That is why Cayman is the way it is right now. You have, for years, people have been reporting to DCI that this business is going on, doesn't have a license, and what's been done over 15 years. You understand? People have been complaining. We have been complaining. We have been emailing DCI with certain things. We have been sending out information and asking immigration to come out and to be active in our island. You have people working without work permits. You have people who are selling and who are not Caymanians, and it's a breach in their permit. And nothing is being done. So who are we to held accountable? I mean, the laws is here, but it's no one enforcing it. And I think it's time. It is time before it get beyond and out of hand and look like some third world poor country with people selling all around Georgetown with illegal businesses set up all in our communities, and it gets to a point that nobody can do anything about it. That doesn't make any sense. Why are you hired? Why are you collecting government funds and not doing your job is my question. You understand? Another thing, where in the world can a Caymanian or Caymanians go and behave the way that foreigners come to Cayman and behave? Where can we do it? Especially, you could have part up on top of our government building, protesting on top of our government building. Where in the world can Caymanian protest on top of somebody's on top of that country government building? The jail wouldn't have even been created to hold us when they would pelt us so far out of sight or even kill us. You understand? But yet they allow things of a sort to happen here in the Cayman Islands. They have allowed, you come to the Cayman Islands, you find Cayman beautiful, you find our people friendly, leave it that way. You understand? Don't bring your culture here to the Cayman Islands and stuff it down in our throats and expect us to hush, hush, because certain of us not going to just hush. You don't understand. You cannot expect it to bring your culture where you're running from and bring it implanted here in the Cayman Islands, and everything's supposed to be all dandy dandy. Look at the situation with how I mean, you have Cayman looking right now. All of these derelict vehicles thrown about the place. Look at the condition some of the homes are in. I mean, come on.
Miss Amelia, listen to this, and this is a very, very fair point. This person says the lady just said they. That means all of them. She says I'm a them. So I want to be very, very careful here because this isn't an anti-expat conversation, right? Some of my very, very good friends are from elsewhere. So, Mr. Amelia, you sound like you're busy this morning with the phone ringing off. And this isn't about that. This is about enforcement. Right? They made a good point. They said, look at the situation in West Bay with the Adam family. Who does Mendoza get to support him? Crosby, what's his name? Ebanks, a Caymanian. Denby Groves, a Caymanian. Gomez, Ebanks, or whatever his name is, a Caymanian. Right? Who is it that's working enforcement? Caymanians. So we ourselves are part of the problem. People cannot do what is not permitted of them to do. And so,
I totally agree.
If people are law abiding, they understand the law. We welcome you with open arms. Once you are respectful, there's no, oh, I'm going to hate you just because you're a Caymanian. No. Or just because you're an expat. No. Right? Caymankind, we're welcoming people here. But is it too much to ask that you follow some simple rules? Is it too much to ask that, as Caymanians, we have our own culture? It mightn't be much, let's be honest here. But we don't want certain things to encroach and change certain aspects of our way of life. Now, listen, culture is very dynamic. It's flexible. It's changing all the time. This Bada Banu foolishness wasn't Caymanian culture, but now it is.
Nope.
You can't tell no young person that Bada Banu not Caymanian culture because they're winding up and shaking up and this and that. Where did that come from? You know what the true Caymanian culture was? The quadrille dancers with the skirts all the way down there.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't this sexualized gyrating. It wasn't this dance hall culture and all this kind of stuff. We have adopted this. We have married this into our culture quite figuratively and literally. We are raising children who are bicultural children, and they pick up a little bit from both sides.
Yeah.
But because our culture is so easily watered down, no one is teaching that. Right? The Caymanian children are not learning their own history. In schools, they're learning about everybody else's history, mother country's history, this, that, and the other thing. And the version that they want us to learn. How many children, Miss Ermilia? You have how many grandchildren now? You have a few.
I got 8 and 1 on the way.
Yeah. Can you go to your grandchildren and say to them, name 2 national heroes of the Cayman Islands for me? You feel confident that they could even answer that question?
Confident that my oldest 2 years.
Yeah, they could tell you 2 national heroes. A lot of these children in middle and high school, they can't tell you that, but they can tell you who the latest dance hall queen is out of Jamaica.
That is true. That is true.
And
that
it's like, how did we get here?
I saw there was some touch that was being displayed. I want to believe it was at the Ritz-Carlton. And I commented on it that we should have a location here in Cayman that where they have our history being replayed, set up and replayed for anyone visiting can come and see what our history is about, what our culture is about. Schools can visit and on field trips, come take field trips out and visit this site and see and learn about our culture.
Mhm.
You understand? These people should be able to visit our schools and to teach our children our culture. But
Mhm.
what is being done? It's just like nothing.
Mm. Well, I tell you what, Mr. What is Mr. Isaac's father's name again? Oh, oh gosh, his name is escaping me right now. Isaac from East End. What is his dad's name again? He's a
I don't know.
seaman. Anyway, someone was mentioning him to me last week because we're doing this series of interviews about Caymanian icons, and someone said, "Yeah, Miss Jarlow." Someone said, "Yeah, you definitely want to get to Miss Jarlow," and I said, "Yeah, I was actually making some observations because he's very, very interesting, and he's still doing his thatch rope and whatever." And I saw him on Culture Day in the government building. I think that was about 2 months ago, and I was talking to him, and he said to me, he was in the schools teaching this, but he said these young people, they don't want to learn this. They're more interested in, again, when this dance hall fella came here the other day last year that went into our government school without proper permission, right? You saw how the children were flocking to him. I did not even know who this guy was. But every single child at that school knew who he was, and they were flocking to him because, again, we as parents, and we all have to take some accountability once you have children, you have not bothered to teach your children about your own culture. You have allowed them to adopt other things that, first of all, they're adopting some of the worst things in the world. How does that benefit your children being in that dance hall culture? Oh, what it calls them, doll or whatever. I mean, it's just like, this is going to help you living a lifestyle you can't afford, flossing and pretending, going out every single weekend, going out on boat cruises. This is the example that we have set for our children. This is the bar. This is the standard. So is it no wonder that our children aren't doing any better? Is it no wonder that they can barely read when they come out of schools?
I think that they should be a part of our educational system in the schools.
But Miss Romelia, I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. Because what I just said to you is that parents are the problem. School curriculum, fine, they can teach it at school. But the teachers only have your kids so many hours a day. So they got to teach them how to read, how to write, how to do math, religious education, a little bit of Cayman culture. What about what's happening in the homes? When are we as parents going to say, I can't expect the government to solve all my problems. I can't expect the schools to educate my children entirely. That's why when your children come home, you have to be reading with them. You have to be doing homework with them. They're your responsibility. You're the one who had them.
That's right.
So at some point, I think we need to demand, as much as we demand of government, which is fine on the one hand, we need to demand at least that much, if not more, of parents who are making the decisions, whether intentionally or not, to have children. Some of them don't even want children. But once they're here, you have to try to do right by them, because if you don't, they become everybody's problem, including the government. Leave me there, my darling.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a beautiful day.
I'm also before I go, I also want to introduce you to I think you can reach out to Mr. Deal Ebanks from West Bay and Miss Manderson. She makes, I can't remember her, Miss Reeb. I think it's Reba Manderson. She makes the most beautiful touch baskets and hats designs. She has a studio with them. You need to reach out to her to show you all what she has. It's beautiful. All made from touch. Okay?
Thank you, darling. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Have a blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye. Belika says they should have put Mendoza two cheeks in jail a long time ago. System is biased. 21 days or so would have been better. It would have better arranged his brain cells. Yeah, I am a little bit surprised he only got 7 days, to be honest, because like I said, 60% discount. He's out by day number 2. So kind of don't make no sense. But I think the message is, and the judge has said, do it again, and I will jail you again for a longer period of time. So we'll see. I will certainly keep you guys updated. So some comments. Now, Quincy is concerned about Lavelle, saying that he hasn't seen her in a minute. Child, Lavelle better than me and you. I saw Lavelle at the grocery store last week, and she's just fine, hitching a ride, dressed up and looking pretty. Nothing to do with her. So Scott says this will be the end of that business now that you're spilling the tea. Well, listen, like I said, I want to make it very, very clear. To me, it doesn't matter who's doing it. We have Jamaicans and even some Caymanians who are selling food out of the back of a van. They don't have a proper business license. They've not gone through the proper sanitation training that food vendors have to go through. And you just cannot operate a business like that, y'all. You have to do it the right way. Y'all hear my little southern thing just came in when I said y'all? That's from living in Florida for 15 years. So, yeah, you just have to do it the right way. I get it. I'm a hustler. Listen, I don't say anything wrong with the word hustle once it means the right thing. I get up every single morning. Some days I don't want to even get up. I'd be like, oh God, can I just roll on the other side of the bed? Went to bed at 2 o'clock this morning, 6 o'clock. I'm like, Sandy, get up. You got the world to conquer. You got stuff to do. You know, every day I get up, I've got goals, I've got objectives. By the way, when I was in Miami, I went to the bookstore. You hardly find bookstores anymore. I picked up a new book. You know, we're going to be launching our book club. I keep telling y'all about this book club and all. Now we launched it. We're just going to do it. And so the first book, I haven't picked up a physical book in a really long time because I actually love audiobooks and I love to read books on Kindle. Because number one, I'm saving a tree. If I come across a word on Kindle that I don't know or I don't understand, I can just press a little button. It'll define it for me. And, you know, it's just, I'm a techie, right? But I said to myself, again, coming back to parenting, you know, every night we sit down with our daughter, me primarily, and we read a book. And child, now her books are getting longer at school. Yesterday, the book was like 20 something pages. I was like, And she did pretty good. Most of the words she knew, some she was kind of phonetically struggling with. But, you know, I read to her, she reads to me. But it occurred to me as, you know, I have these thoughts in my head every once in a while. I said, Sandy, you got to be showing this girl an example. You can't be on the computer all the time in front of the computer screen reading a book or, you know, she sees you with your headset on. She doesn't know what you're doing. She doesn't know you're listening to a book. You could be listening to YouTube or whatever. So I said, I'm going to buy me some physical books to read. Because I haven't read physical books and I couldn't tell you. I have a few physical books in my collection. Lots of recipe books, which I like to have a physical copy of. But yeah, I don't really read a whole lot of physical books. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pick up some books. So that I can sit down in the evening when she's doing her reading, I can pull out my book and I can start reading too. To demonstrate to her, this is what you have to do. You got to exercise the brain. It's a muscle. And so the book that I picked up is actually a book about millionaires and how you can acquire wealth, true wealth. I'm going to share the title. I need to grab the book. But anyway, let's take a quick commercial break, folks.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.
At Innovative Building Products, we provide professional builders and homeowners with the highest quality materials from top brands worldwide. Tiling tools, waterproofing systems, thin sets, self-levelers, grout, along with porcelain floor and wall tiles. Our products are 100% guaranteed, promise 100% satisfaction, and beat competitor pricing. Pallets of materials are ready to go. Quick and easy convenience to get you in and out within 5 minutes.
62626. Am I just crazy? Am I talking out of my head here? What are your thoughts on this, folks? You know, how are you helping your children in this world that we live in where we have an identity crisis? Most children don't have no clue what it is to be Caymanian. We are people of color, right? We are beautiful and amazing people of color. And yet a lot of our children just don't have a clue. I want to talk about my DNA results. So y'all know I had my DNA kit here. And for a minute, it took me a bit of a minute, it was sitting here. I ordered it, must have been like well over 2 years ago before the pandemic. And it was sitting here in a drawer, right? Got it on some special on Amazon. And it's just been sitting here, not being used, not being nothing. So, interestingly enough, when we were going away the other day, I said to my husband, I'd ordered 2 kits because they had it on sale. And I said to him, let's just do this. And he was like, all right. So he sent his in. I did mine. Sent in my saliva sample. And we got our test results back. Ooh, honey child. First of all, why didn't you all tell me that it was this bad? Well, I learned a little thing or two. I'm trying to actually log in here so that I can show you guys some of what I learned, because wow, I'm surprised at what I have discovered. Of course, I can't remember my password now to log in. What a mess. So first of all, the first thing I want to say is someone should have told me that there was a skinny version of me out there, because that skinny version got lost after about the second year of university. But according to 23andMe, hear what they had to say. They're like, oh, you have a tendency to be underweight. I said, what? Are you kidding me? I have a tendency to be underweight? You gotta be kidding me. Now, this is when you be lying to yourself. So here I am lying to myself, but oh, I come from big bone people. 23andMe is like, your genetic makeup is not big bone. You didn't come from no big bone people. You're in a population, part of the population that you're supposed to be 5 pounds underweight. And I said, Lord have mercy. 5 to 10 pounds underweight? I said, really? Now y'all tell me this? Well, I guess better late than never, because I had a real chuckle when I saw this. Wow. 23andMe says, Sandy Hill, you are supposed to be 10 pounds. You fall into this 10 pounds underweight kind of category. And I said, wow, this is amazing. And I'm going to show you all my results here, because this is pretty funny. Guess what else it told me? That there's an athlete inside of this fat body. Stanley says, so now you know, Sandy, what are you going to do about it? Child, I'm trying to find my mojo, trying to get motivated. Because Stanley, yeah, I think this is a perfect example of how we lie to ourselves. All right, let's check it out, because it is really, really interesting. Wellness. This is my wellness dashboard. So it has all kind of stuff here. It says deep sleep, you're less likely to be a deep sleeper. Jeez, peace. Listen, I don't know how they do this. I don't know how 23andMe can look at my genes and tell me all this stuff. And pretty much, with the exception of 1 or 2 little minor things, they were on point. That's true. I'm not a deep sleeper at all. I tell you, I wake up about 50 gazillion times every night. Genetic weight says you're predisposed to weigh less than average. Say what? Less than average? So you mean all the fried platinum eating just isn't really helping? Less than average? Your genes influence not just your weight, but the impact of different healthy habits. So it says, Sandra, your genes predispose you to be about 4% less than average. Whoa, really? So, yeah, because I have a particular variant. So, Stanley, oh, child. This is the other thing that made me kind of pause. Muscle composition. It says, Sandra, your genetic muscle composition is common in elite power athletes. Studies have found that almost all power athletes, including sprinters, throwers, and jumpers, have a specific genetic variant in a gene related to muscle composition. You have that same genetic variant as these elite athletes. I'm like, what? You mean to tell me that I've got a skinny, athletic person in there? OMG. I better pull them out. Fast twitch fibers allow rapid, forceful muscle contraction, the sort of contraction required for sprinting. And I've kind of always known this, though, in a way, because all of the sports that I'm attracted to, when I was a lot fitter, high school and that sort of thing, I have never fancied myself as a distance runner. Never. Right? So when I did do track and field, I'm like, no, I'm not running no 800 meter. Give me the 100, the 200. I'm going to give you a burst of energy and then I'm done. I love squash and tennis because, you make rapid, fast movements. And so to me, on some level, this makes total sense. So slow twitch fibers as opposed to the long endurance athletic power, I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it. It's amazing what they can tell you. Genetic markers. What else? Lactose intolerance. It says I'm likely to be intolerant. I don't really like milk. I love cheese, but I don't necessarily like milk. So maybe that's how that shows up. Sleep movement, likely average or less movement. Consumption of caffeine, likely to consume less. Y'all know I don't drink coffees or anything like that. Some people are like, oh, have a coffee. I'm like, just not my thing. Don't like the taste of coffee at all. So it's amazing the things that they were able to tell me. And I'm thinking, yeah, a lot of this makes sense. Now, y'all know there's so much more here. They looked at a few things. Hair thickness. Less likely to have thick hair strands. And I think that that's actually true. I used to be thicker, but yes, I believe that that's the case. Fear of public speaking. Ooh, there's a genetic marker for this? Let's look at this one. So based on your genetics and other factors, you are less likely to have a fear of public speaking. Wow. I guess I don't know what gene that is, but okay. So of people with genetics and other factors like yours, we predict that 64% do not have a fear of public speaking. So amazing. What else has it told me that's interesting? Sweet versus salty. Aha. Let's see if it got it right. There's no taste map on your tongue, but there is a vast taste network in your brain. Genetics may influence how your brain judges and responds. So it says here that the combination of your genetics and other factors makes you likely to prefer salty or savory snacks. And that actually isn't true. Now, this is one, but if you notice the breakdown here, 54% to 46% of this research, right? So they say 54% with my makeup prefer salty or savory, and 46% prefer sweet snacks. I'm actually in the 46%, but it's pretty close. There's not a big difference between 54 and 46%. But I'm a sweet person. I'm not too keen on the salty stuff. But very, very interesting. The other thing that was interesting in the health area, right, is it looked at all these markers about, oh gosh, there's a whole bunch of them here. Let me just see if I can find that section again. But the one that it told me about, so it looked at, there was all sorts of alpha, whatever deficiency, all this stuff here. And one of the things that I thought was very, very interesting, I think it's under health highlights. No, it's not that one. Hold on. I was looking, maybe it's wellness. The phone app is a little bit different. So it looked at a lot of different things, and it was like, no, you don't have sickle cell or this or that and whatever. Very, very interesting stuff. But the one thing that it told me that I need to watch out for. So I think it looked at kidney, heart, thyroid, bone density, all this sort of stuff. LDL, HDL. I mean, they give you so much information. Let me just look on the phone because the phone app is a little bit easier to navigate because I kind of know where this stuff is on the phone app. So it looked at it's going to force me to sign in again. Hold on. So it looked at a number of different things that you might be predisposed to. And, my thing is when it tells you that you're predisposed to something, what you really need to do, folks, is to just pay attention to what that means for you and to ensure that you try to offset it as much as you can. And it was really on the money with me in terms of what I might be predisposed to. So it looked at a bunch of stuff. And I wasn't, didn't show any major issues. But the one thing it said, hold on now, let me see if I can find it, is in relation to diabetes. And it runs, we have a family history of it. So it does run in our family. And so I was not entirely surprised when it said that you have a 33% chance increase of actually becoming diabetic between the ages of 48 and 80. And this is absolutely 1,000% correct. I have no qualms with believing that report. Everything else was fine. I'm trying to find where that report is. But anyway, it said 33% chance. And it says you got to really consider offsetting as much as you can your lifestyle changes now, like right now, that are going to increase your chances. And I think that that's where these reports can be incredibly helpful, folks. Yeah. So this isn't a magic situation here, but it really is one of those things where I can look at, oh yes, under physical features. I think this is where it's at. Hold on. Physical features. Oh gosh, where is that now? So anyway, on the physical features, it talks about cheek dimples. It says 62% chance you don't have dimples. 95% you don't have a cleft chin, which is true. 77% chance that you never had dandruff. Earlobe, it talks about whether you have detached earlobe. Even your ear wax type, which is so weird. Eye color, it says here, where is it on the computer? 75% chance of dark brown eyes, which is true. Your finger length, freckles, hair photo bleaching, hair texture, 34% chance of slightly wavy hair, 67% chance of dark brown hair, 64% chance that you had no hair at birth. Skin pigmentation. I'm trying to find where this bit is on the physical features, where it's at on the computer. But anyway, it says for skin pigmentation, 58% chance of having light brown skin. Stretch marks, toe length, unibrow. It just goes on and on and on. So it is beyond interesting, I think. It talks about some of the variants that were detected for different stuff. So this hereditary hemochromatosis, yes. Genetic condition, absorption of too much dietary iron. So it leads to iron overload, can cause damage to certain joints and organs. 0% variance detected. So that was good. Yeah. But the one that it picked up on that I know for certain is an area of concern is definitely diabetes. And that's true. 33% increase rate. So I've got to definitely look at that. And of course, let's be very frank here. Lifestyle, right? Makes a humongous difference in those sorts of things. So ability to get out there and start exercising. So, I appreciate the question, Stanley, because you're right on the money. Got to do something about it. And there's no time like now. Now let's look at the ancestry report, because this is kind of interesting. And then I want to look at DNA relatives. Thank you, Miss Charlene. Al says there's no such thing as big boned. That's a lie that we tell ourselves, Al, to make us feel better about being fat. Nobody wants to call you fat anymore. You can call me fat, child, because I'm fat and I'm obese and I'm overweight by at least a good 50 pounds. And I know, Al, because I wasn't always this size. I remember the high school days and what I used to look like. And that's why when somebody says, oh, there's a skinny bitch inside Sandy, there really is, because she was there before. And I totally get it. And when it talks about muscle composition, even when I was smaller, I have very, very defined, like I have people who look at my calf muscles all the time and they're envious. They're like, oh my God, I wish I had your calf muscles. I'm like, not really. It's just genetics. It really, and I always used to say it's just genetics. And it turns out 23andMe confirms that it's just genetics, right? Miss Amelia, good morning. Food culture, Damien, we have one of the worst in the world. We eat too many starches, too much red meat. Too much oxtail and beans. So Miss Gloria says, Sandy, of all the expats here, the Filipinos are the ones that raise funds for charities. As I know, they do that, and there are 3/4 groups that do this for the local charities, as I know ADACI does. Listen, this is not a conversation about any nationality. That post, although there were Filipino women in the photo, was not about them in that sense. It's just about there's certain things in this country that are illegal and you cannot do. Street vendors and street hecklers is one thing that we have never really had here in the Cayman Islands. It has increased. There is a begging mentality out there. And let me be very honest with you, the majority of people who are out there begging are Caymanians. The guy who hangs out at Pasadora Place, he is a pain in the rear. 24/7 going around with his bandaged foot, but oh, he's a diabetic. Does not stay your behind home and get some rest and eat properly. All he does all day long is ride around on his bicycle, agitating people and begging people. He's a Caymanian. So I'm not saying, that beggars and street vendors, what I'm saying is that's not a look that we've ever really had. And we need to nip it in the bud. And I don't care who it is that's doing it. I don't care if it's a Filipino. I don't care if it's a Spaniard. I don't care if it's a lawyer from Maples haggling on the street selling his Louis Vuitton shoes or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It gives the country a very different feel and a very different look that we have never grown accustomed to, and we shouldn't be comfortable with it. And I get that culturally in other places in the world, somebody was talking about Hong Kong, how, on a Sunday, there's a whole network of Asian women that go out in the streets and the Hong Kong government can't do anything about it. They've tried cracking down and it's just gotten out of hand. I'm just saying that has never been our culture. So there is a bit of a responsibility on individuals when you move from one culture to the next, one country to the next, to really figure out what's acceptable there and what isn't. Listen, if I go to the United Arab Emirates or I go to any Muslim culture, right? There are certain things that you would believe that I'm not going to engage in. There's a reason why I probably haven't visited any of those countries yet. I'll make a little trip to Dubai just to check out their fancy malls and shopping. But would you catch me living in Dubai as a woman? No, honey child. Because their culture, especially when it comes to women, is very, very strict, and it is what it is. But you learn about it before you go, because when they arrest you in public because you use profanity or you showed your ankle, don't be surprised, right? Make sure you know the rules before you go. All right. Emily says, is this a question, Emily, or a comment? She says, is our responsibility as Caymanians to teach them their history and culture, or teach them our history and culture? I think it's a little bit of both. So when people come in, I think you have a responsibility to take it upon yourself to learn. But also, yes, as Caymanians, sometimes you got to say, this isn't how we do things. But that post wasn't really so much about them as it was about the lack of enforcement. I will read a comment here that has come in as well about that. Emily says, healthy snacks. Yes, child. The chocolates don't count, right? Damien says, poverty brings back culture and survival. I don't think it has anything to do with that. Alice wants to talk about the Cubans. All right, let's finish up my little 23andMe moment. And then we can come back. Remy is already putting the positivity into the universe. He says, good morning, Slim Sandy. It's like Slim Shady. Love you, girl. Ooh, Remy, I love you too. And I love your cooking even more. Chef Remy is amazing in the kitchen. Stanley says we have to speak out of what makes us uncomfortable. Like my old friend, Mickey Hurlston used to say, lack of courage. Yes, Jill. Well, we're going to be speaking about a lot this morning because now we go until 10 o'clock. So we got plenty of time left in the show. So listen, ancestry composition. I wasn't surprised by this. So Sandra, it says 100%. So we have 80% out of sub-Saharan Africa, West Africa, Nigeria, interesting. Percentage 18.6 out of Ghana, Liberian, Syria, Sierra Leone, interesting. Out of the, who are these people? I don't know anything about these people. Iwi, Fan, Gan, Dang, Bing, Fante people. No clue who they are. All right. Very good. So West African. All right. What is this? Senegambian, 0.3%. Broadly West African, 3.9%. Congolese and Southern East Africa, 3.1%. You know what was interesting? European? Where do we get any European ancestry here from? I don't know. 18.7%. That shocked me. I must say that I wasn't really anticipating seeing any European anything in the bloodline. And we're talking about Northwestern Europe, British and Irish. So perhaps I've got a great uncle or something who's English from, let me see now. Portugal. No, where's this? Somewhere. Greater London. Yes, Greater London. That's interesting. So 17.7% Greater London and then 1% Southern European, which includes Italian. What? And broadly Southern European 0.3%. So that could be like Portugal. That I must tell you, that for me was like, okay, interesting. Wasn't expecting that at all. So Southern European including Iberian, Italian, and Balkan peninsulas, as well as the island of Malta. So a little bit of Mediterranean. I need to adopt a Mediterranean diet. Yes, so Greater London, that one was a little bit surprising. Maybe we should go and find those relatives. What I find so interesting, right? When people look at their ancestry reports, it says 80% sub-Saharan African. And Caymanians always want to be like, oh, look, I'm 18% European. Let me go find my English relatives. It's like, please, go sit your behind down. Now, this is the most interesting thing about this. I'm telling you, these DNA tests are legit. You need to take one. So it says Indigenous American, 0.5%. I've always kind of felt like I had a little bit, this is me being totally silly here, but I've always found like I identified with the American Indians. I don't know why. Like I've always had a little, like my heartstring, when I hear their stories and stuff, I'm just like, could I have been American Indian? 0.5%, not really. But now check this out. Recent ancestry in the Americas. Belize, say what? Belize District, Bay Islands, Honduras. I'm shocked by that. We have possible little connection in Bay Island? What? More recent times. And look at where it puts me for more recent history, right smack dab in the Caribbean. And not just in the Caribbean, but look, yeah, it says Jamaica, puts me on the map. And where in Jamaica does it put me? St. Elizabeth Parish. Now, y'all need to pay attention to this. My grandfather on my mother's side, Charles Barnes, is from Jamaica. And where in Jamaica is he from? St. Elizabeth. Take that. They narrowed it down. I don't know how they did it. They narrowed it down to the very parish in Jamaica, y'all. St. Elizabeth. To me, that is astonishing because it's 100% correct. Yeah. See it right there on the map? St. Elizabeth. That's where he's from. So Sherry Ann, cousin there, says you're correct. It took about, we sent off the results about 3 weeks ago. And so by week 2.5, stuff started to come in, and they update you in the app when they're updating your profile. Like, okay, we're working on this, we're working on that. Now, here's what's even more interesting when it starts telling me who you're related to. Oh my God, I have relatives in the Cayman Islands that I didn't even know anything about. Here you know, who is Anise Small? She's a first cousin once removed. Who is this first cousin? Now, I'm related to some of the Smalls, but I don't know who this is. Sabrina? Who is this? This has to be someone who's related to Sabrina, I would think. Is this a niece? Like a niece of Sabrina, not of mine. Oh my God, she just responded. Sabrina is listening. She says the McFields actually came from Honduras. And this is Roger's daughter. Okay, so it's my cousin's daughter. Oh, yeah. You see what I'm telling you? 100% accurate. Who is Tyra Powell? I don't know who Tyra Powell is, but she's a first cousin once removed. So that means she's a cousin's child. So whoever Tyra is, she's in the UK. Hi, cousin. We have Melanie James. I don't know who Melanie is, but apparently she's a cousin as well. Second cousin, it says. HR, second cousin. Ernest Polite, or Polito. What is it? Politi. In Corpus Christi, Texas. And he wants to discover more information about his father's ancestors. I don't know who he is, but look at that. Family. Flavia Pinto is a cousin in South Carolina. Hello, Flavia. Hello, cousin. But it comes back, it circles back to Cayman. I saw a few names on here and I'm like, wait a minute. Marianne McField. Yes, we're related to the McFields. Sybil Crawley, Chester Hurlston. I don't know who Chester is. Tanaya James, Justin Watson, John Schmidt, Margaret, Stanley Walton. Wait a minute. Doesn't Stanley live in Cayman? Huh. Says that we're a third cousin. We share a set of great-great-grandparents. Amazing. Stanley, call your cousin. Denisha Flowers, Renee Jackson. Which Renee is this? Is she in Cayman? Renee Jackson. Doesn't say where she is. So whoever this Renee is, we are third cousins. I found this so incredibly fascinating. Gina Wells. I don't know who she is. Is she in Cayman? William Connolly. Which William Connolly is that? So Gina is in Cayman. Okay, Gina, look me up. Maya, I don't know who's William Connolly. Which William Connolly is this? Cayman Islands. Huh. This is just so incredibly fascinating. Folks, the world is a small place. And it just goes on and on and on. Anglins, so I'm related to some of the Anglins. I'm surprised by that. Some Hydes, Nicholas Hydes. I don't know who Nicholas is. Chad Evans. He sounds Caymanian. Yes. Chad, hey, cuz, what's up? Who else do we have here? Eldon Harmon, Linda Elwin Ebanks, Jeremy Solomon, Joan Woods, Ronnie Anglin. Hey, Ronnie, we're cousins. Look at that. John Rankin. I think he lives, I don't know. This guy is not in Cayman. He's in California. Cousins. Look at that. It's amazing. So I noticed a lot of Ebanks in here. There's Davy Ebanks, Erica Ebanks. So I think my sister mentioned before that we have some connections to West Bay, and I was very, very surprised by that. A Powry. What a thing. Joellen Ray Smith. Is this person in Cayman? Doesn't say. Sometimes they don't put their location. So Ezekiel Eden. So I got a third cousin who's in Eden. Wow. Anyway, folks, check it out. I think it's worth looking. There's another Connolly, Alexis Connolly, Suzette Ebanks. Which Suzette is this? Sorry, Suzette Ebanks. I wonder if this is the one that works for government, for GIS. You never know. Faith Parsons? What? Third cousins? It's a small world, folks, and this is really, really interesting. I'm still working through a lot of the details of this, and apparently you can request all sorts of documentation. Oh, my apologies. Here's a Zalika Rivers, who's a third cousin. Webb, Rankin, Isaac Rankin. Which Isaac is this? MP Isaac Rankin? Well, it says Georgetown. Look at that. We might be cousins. Dale Banks, Robert O. Thompson Jr., Larry Kirkernel. Hey, Larry. Camille Woods. There's another Anglin. A Stewart. Lots of family out there, folks. Like I always say, we're all cousins here in the Cayman Islands. Now I know it's probably not all that far-fetched. So Al says it's migration. 600 years ago, Cayman had no people. Adam and Eve were white, though, says Damien. He's being facetious. Melanie is Big Tony's wife. Melanie. Which one was Melanie again? Big Tony that lives in Miami? Sherry Ann says, read your inbox. Let me see. So Joe Ellen is one of the owners of Thompson Shipping. Oh, yeah? That's my cousin? I better try and talk to her. Maybe I can get some free shipping benefits. Jonathan E. Melanie says, so this one says, Stanley owns Chelsea's, William Conley's from East End. And yes, we have family in Honduras. Utella, John Rankin is married to Chastine. And Joe Ellen lives Prospect. First house on the people are like, I know exactly where she lives. Yes. So Mr. This is one of my go-to people for anything family, but it says McCoy. Doreen Barnes married Small. Did I see any McCoys on here though? But yes, I'm told that we are family to the McCoys as well. So very, very interesting. So someone wants to know how and what ancestry website to use. So listen, you have a couple different options apparently. And I ordered this kit off of Amazon just because it was on sale. And I was like, this looks interesting. Kind of a fun thing to do. But there's 23andMe, and there's also, I was trying to get Oliver Watler to come on because him and Miss Kathy Frazier are really, really good at this sort of thing. Like they have done a lot with genealogy in the Cayman Islands. And so it's amazing what you can discover about family and who you're really for and where you come from. And as I recall, if memory serves me correctly, um, Oliveira actually traced back the Watlers. So here's a cousin all the way in Liberia. Check that out, fourth cousin. Wow. So he kind of looks like my dad a little bit in the face. So Oliveira traced back the Watlers to two original brothers. I wanted him to tell this story because it's so amazing, so interesting. Two original brothers who came from, I think it's either Scotland or the UK by way of Jamaica. So Andrea says that basically you're related to the entire Cayman Islands. Yes, that's the reason why I'm not married to a Caymanian, by the way. Because Magdalene says, good thing you married outside. Listen, I remember telling my dad as a kid, because this one family, that one. I'm like, this is back, in the day. I was like, I feel like I'm related to everybody in Cayman. This was just a general feeling, because the MacPhails is a big family, the Solomons, the Rockets, the Barneses. I'm like, I feel like I'm related to a lot of people. So it's probably a good idea that I don't marry a Caymanian, because next thing you know, you'd be like, oh, this is your cousin. I'm like, oh God. Damien says you have Cuban bloodline also. Yes, we do. We have people who still live in Cuba, family members. Here's Zoe Barnes. And the interesting thing about the Barnes side of the family, which would be my mother's dad, they came again. That's St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. And then there's another set of Barnes in Cayman who are actually not Barneses at all. So they came here from I think it was Nicaragua or somewhere about, and they changed their name. And a lot of people do this. Like they go to a new country and they adopt a name. I don't know why they chose Barnes, but I think they're Santos or something. But when they came here, they actually changed their name to Barnes. So there's multiple set of Barnes, but we were the original Barneses. When Charlie Barnes came here, when he came here back in the day, there was no Barneses in Cayman at that time. So he is the original Barnes. And I can tell you that, he's had a lot of children and grandchildren, and, there's a big clan of those Barneses, right? And, he was a very industrious man. A lot of people say, where do you get your hustle from? And I say, well, I can say with confidence that it's all in the genes, because my grandfather, sorry, not my dad, but my dad was industrious too. He was really an industrious man. First liquor license in the Cayman Islands was from Charles Barnes, Buttonwood Club. Thank you, Sabrina. I've let them know. Maybe they forgot that I was going until 10 o'clock. They had to make some adjustments in the system. So see, if you never married to Jamaica, you might have ended up marrying a cousin. I'm telling you, I knew it. Okay. Remy says, so happy for you, Sandy. At least you have rich cousins. Oh, Chad, please. That'll help me. Oh my God. So yes, the school bus system, the first school buses, Charles Barnes again. So yeah, we were very industrious people. And you could be, just like you still can be, working class and industrious and get things done. You don't have to be born into wealth and born into money to make things happen with your businesses or with the community. Or, I think that my aunts and uncles and even mother were very, very fortunate that they had such an industrious father, because folks, when Charles Barnes passed away, he was in a position. And when we talk about things like, my children are not gonna have a piece of land, back then, I'm sure it wasn't easy for a Charles Barnes coming from St. Elizabeth to acquire land. He didn't come from money, and he had property and stuff in Jamaica too. But when he came here, what he did was, instead of flossing and trying to dress up and go dance hall partying back in the day, he acquired property all over the place. The family home is right behind Jose's Essos. He had property all over the place. And when he passed away, Buttonwood Club, he was able to give to 2 sons and a daughter and say, you guys have to share this. The property behind Buttonwood Club, now I think that'd be half brothers that have that. And that's prime Georgetown real estate. Back in the day, it wasn't nothing, it was swamp. But those people understood that land was king, even if it was swampland. One day it's not going to be swampland. And so they acquired land. And more importantly, if you had any sense, you held on to your land. You didn't sell it at the first chance that you got. Now, some family members have been foolish and they had land all South Sound and they sold and they let it go for little or nothing back in the day because they had no foresight. What does it say about the people who shall perish for lack of foresight? So yes, they had no foresight, and that's what they did, right? Sold their land, gave it away. So, unfortunately, you know, that has now put us as generations later in a predicament where we're complaining about the cost of property. We can't afford it. Well, if your parents were a little bit smarter, they would have known, let me grab up land and pass it on. And some families did. They had all acreage and acreage and acreage. And you know what? One for this daughter, one for this son. That was a legacy that they were leaving behind for you, is to give you a little piece of property. Land ownership was that important. Now, look, we even have a Swaby in the mix. Bernadette Swaby is she in Cayman. Hello, Bernadette. She's in New York. Interesting. Swabies. Very, very interesting. Jacqueline Taylor, Frank Spalding Bay, Robert O. Thompson Sr. Okay, that makes sense. Rated to the senior and the junior. McGregor, Robinson, Nicola Dick, Joanne A. It's an amazing journey, folks. I wonder if you reach out to some of these people and be like, hey, you're my cousin. You know, when my husband did his, I'm going to tell you a little bit about his. I was a little bit surprised because he had no, you know, they're from Jamaica. So I expected a little bit of African ancestry in there. And from Marlon, it does not exist. He has no African in him whatsoever. And I thought, you guys have been in Jamaica for a couple generations now. I think at least 3 or 4 generations. Surely you were marrying, you know, into the, nope. So it means that for him and his brothers, which I think is the first generation that like started marrying probably non-Indians. But even when I looked at his mom, I go, oh, but she could have a little bit, you know, his dad looks like he's mixed with like Mexican Spanish or something. 100% Asia, like India, Sri Lanka, somewhere over there. Oh, that's him 100%. No African ancestry, no European ancestry, nothing else. I was thinking that's a little bit weird. But it is what it is. So super interesting. So now I chuckle because when people say to Marlon, oh, are you from India? Like legit, it's a good question. Because his bloodline has not been that integrated at all. I thought it would have been just a little bit. Nothing, 100% Asian, India, that part of the world. So Al says most Caymanians wouldn't talk about being of African descent. Strange world. Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. I was talking to someone yesterday and I was having a conversation and they were saying how, oh, you know, I've got some European ancestry. And I was looking at him going, looking at you, I wouldn't be able to tell that. Just like looking at me. I'm not really that bothered that 18 point whatever % is European. We're African people. Stanley says your grandfather was a visionary. I had the pleasure of meeting him. He made the best rum and coke at Buttonwood Club. Magdalene is reminding us that he also purchased property down in Dump Road. Yes, there was property down there as well. And Damien said, or it was stolen it was stolen from them days by other folks. Yes, well, you know, We've always had pirates here in the Cayman Islands, and sometimes the pirates were our own people, both rich and poor and black and white, but they were people who understood, again, the value of land. So sometimes you went to the local attorney and you were trying to do a transaction. They were like, oh, let me put that land in my name for you. Safekeeping. And you didn't recognize that what you were doing is you were handing over your land title to them, and that was it. And yeah, so there were people, they're now merchant class, respectable people. But back in the day, there were people who were stealing land from people. Oh, Cuban story. My apologies. Thank you, Catherine. She said, listen, we got 10 minutes left. Get to the Cubans. All right, Catherine, and the rest of you. 23andMe, go to their website. You can order the kit directly from them. There's other DNA ones out there. You can get it from Amazon. See who has it the cheapest. I think on their website now you can get it for like $100. Definitely check it out. All right, Miss Catherine. Cubans. Okay, here's the mix-up with the Cubans, right? So we know that there has been an influx of Cubans coming into the country, and we've been getting a real mixed bag. And so yesterday, someone reached out and said, there's a guy here. They gave me his name and picture and everything. And they said, listen, there's a guy here who sexually assaulted a child in Cuba. And so they were like, you guys need to be on the lookout. Now, this is a difficult situation because he obviously hasn't been, well, we don't know. I say obviously, but actually we don't know. We don't know if Cuba is letting go prisoners and putting them out in the ocean and say, bye-bye, scuttle along. We don't know. So the allegation is he's a sexual predator, rapist, child rapist. I have no way of confirming this. I do not know. You know, and the thing is, if he actually hasn't been convicted, there will be no conviction record, which means that we're going to do what exactly? Give him asylum? If we don't know, we don't know. We need to really be vetting these people properly. But here's the most amazing thing, right? So this comment came in, says, I'd like to give you some important information about a Cuban who entered his, I think they might say this country, illegally by boat. This person is not trying to take refugee because of politics, just like others who are very good people. This person is very violent and also fled from Cuba because he raped a minor and served a sentence for that. So they did say he served a sentence, which means that hopefully if he gives us the correct name, we should be able to identify who he is. By the way, where's the fingerprinting system? I'm just asking. I would like to warn you that this person can be dangerous. As you will understand, I'd like to remain anonymous because I'm the family of the person he raped. So we got the photo of the individual that was provided, and we have passed that along to the authorities. Quite frankly, that's the most that we can do. Now, did you all know, no report of this has been published yet, so I want y'all to pay very, very close attention. There was a stabbing day before yesterday with between two Cubans that came on the island about 6 months ago by boat. They came together. So maybe they had a beef. Maybe one guy was taken up to his room on the boat. I don't know how it happened. But one of them stabbed a guy who lives down swamp pretty badly. He is seriously injured. My sources say it looks like the guy who did the stabbing meant to kill him. I was like, what? Violent people are coming in on these boats. Yesterday, one of them tried to jump off of a building at the detention center. Mental health issues. Okay. So let me try to understand this. We got our own problems. Bag of problems. And we're importing problems the legal way that come on the plane. Then we've got the Jamaicans coming in on the canoe boats, bringing drugs and firearm and ammunition. That's another problem. Then we got the Cuban refugees coming in by boat. We don't know who the heck they are. Some are violent. Some have mental health issues. Some are alleged child molesters. Well, they said convicted. What a mess we are in. We need to address these issues like ASAP. Now, we had an interview yesterday. You guys got to listen to it with Deputy Premier Saunders. Yes, we're sympathetic that they're having economic hard times. A lot of us have been there. We know the country. We're fortunate right now, but there was a time when our people had to go over to work overseas. But as Mr. Saunders said, we did it legally. Our Caymanian seamen applied to these bulk carriers and they were hired and did whatever paperwork was required. We weren't sneaking on a boat to try to sneak into a country. So this is the same thing with the street vendors. That's not our culture. Yes, we have been poor. We grew up poor. Check out the interview with Mr. Norman Bodden talking about what they had to do for little shillings. His mother, who was hearing impaired, going out there washing other people's clothes and doing their laundry to be able to support him, a single child of a handicapped woman back in the day. You know how difficult that was? Couldn't really afford proper shoes and all this sort of stuff. But we didn't steal from people and we just didn't do things illegally. We still maintained the dignity of following the law. You go abroad, there's a legal way to do it. Lots of countries will accept foreign workers. There's no problem in that if you do it the right way. So this government has already said, Mr. Saunders revealed, they have put a new asylum board in place, a new chair. They need to fast track those applications as quickly as possible. Do it the right way. There's a lawyer heading up the asylum board because you got to do it the right way, because then these people are going to sue you in court claiming you never considered their this and that and human rights. So do it the right way. Go through their applications, because most of them have no connection to political asylum. They're making shit up. Do it the right way and export them as quickly as possible. Get those Max 8s loaded and send these people back home from whence they came. The quicker you do it and they get the message out there, because there's mixed messages, because trust me, they're always messaging me, so I know. Oh, I want to come to the Cayman Islands. I'm told I can just get on a boat and come in. No, you can't. That's not how it works. Right? You do it the right way, and then you can work legally with whatever restrictions are in place. If you don't do it the right way, we need to get you back to Cuba as quickly as possible. And as soon as they get the memo that you will be sent back in an expedited fashion, and your fake claims to political asylum is not going to work, you're going to see that they're going to start to come less and less. They'll continue their journey on to America and try them for whatever policy it is that they have in place at the moment. That's the God's honest truth. Miss Lucille says, Sandy, you make me laugh sometimes. You were just like your father, said and do not care. You all one Caymanian, all Caymanian, one is family. I knew your father and mother, and I see you, and I come home. I am coming to look for you. And also my lovely no that sit by you in the morning. Big up all of my ex-co-workers, taxi drivers. I love them all. Also the doctors and nurses at Health City that take care of Christian Mitchell. I wish her speedy recovery. Oh, Christine, God love us all. So listen, you know, as Caymanians, we know a little bit of what's happening on the Mall Road. And yes, our friend Christine over at Health City, she had a triple bypass surgery, I think. She had almost 100% blockage. So we do wish her a speedy recovery. We understand that the surgery went really, really well. And this is, again, when it's fantastic to have a facility like Health City on island, because to be quite frank, I think a lot of people would be dead if it wasn't for the expertise that they have there, especially when it comes to heart. So Christine, she's worked for immigration for many, many years. And we are really wishing you the best, and we're praying for you and your family. Speedy recovery. So Stanley says the proliferation of Cuban migrants is mainly caused by the U.S. president opening the southern borders of the United States. Also, Nicaragua easing the visas for Cubans. So the number one factor, Stanley, we have gone into great detail about this in a previous show, but definitely the number one factor is the Nicaragua route. But what's causing it is the economic tough times. So COVID. So anytime there's an economic depression or tough times, the Cubans jump up and they are running somewhere else. So the Cuban government needs to address this as well. They need to fix their foolishness in Cuba, but we're not going to hold our breath for that. Create more opportunities for your people so that they're earning more than $10 US a month or whatever the going rate is, because they are desperate to get out. And I see them messaging me like doctors are talking about they're going to come on a boat. And I was like, I wouldn't recommend that. What a hot mess. Anyway, folks, it's been a fantastic program today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. So remember, by popular demand, we are going until 9 o'clock in the mornings. On tomorrow's show, I kind of feel like we didn't get to everything today, but on tomorrow's program, we're going to be talking about a 16-year-old who is in government care at the government home is now pregnant for a 40-year-old man. You tell me how that happened. Y'all have a good day. We'll be back here tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.